What's up, friends? Welcome back to Hobby Vomit. It is me, Matt, and if you can't tell, I'm just coming off of a cold, so I'm sounding like a little sick boy. But yeah, I wanted to make a video because I haven't for a few weeks, and because I've been sick, and I'm itching to make one, and it seems like this is the perfect time to do a first half of 2025 tier list. So, if you've been around on BookTube, you probably see a lot of people doing the book. The tag, I can't remember what it's called, where they talk about their favorites, least favorites, and so on and so forth. I kind of thought I'd just do a tier list to keep it simple. And yeah, so I'm going to rank every book I've read so far in 2025. So before I start, I think there's 28 books. A couple of these are rereads, but I put them on here anyways. Forgive me, I'm going to probably have to take a decent amount of breaks to sip some tea. But let's go over what a tier list is. You probably already know. I'm going to rank them from S to D. S is like... So, actually, sorry, let me preface this by saying I do a decent amount of research before I read books. So most of these are going to be like a B to an S. I tend to not pick up a book if I know I'm just going to be like on it. But there is a few. And then the D is reserved for like a DNF. I finally have my first DNF, so I will put that there. And then S, because of most of them are going to be from A to B, or normally almost all of them would be S and A. I'm going to reserve S for I think 3 books. Like the best of the best are going to go up into S. So think of those as like 6-star books. A's are 5-star books. B's are 4. C's are 3. D's did not finish. So let's just get into it. We got 28 books. These have all just been randomized down here, and we're just gonna go from the top. I know in the video it's cutting off down here, but you'll see what's hiding those 3 little books here in a second. So, The Long Walk by Stephen King. This I was really excited to read this because the new movie is coming out, and I wanted to read it before I watched the trailers which I know sounds silly. It's like, well, it's just a trailer. But you know what? I feel like more and more often trailers just spoil major moments of movies now, which is frustrating. So I wanted to avoid having any major moments spoiled for me, so I read it. It's a novella. I guess it's a novella. It's still like 350 pages, so I guess it's not a novella, but... Just basically Hunger Games before Hunger Games were the Hunger Games, or before Battle Royale was Battle Royale. Stephen King was already doing it. And it's just, these boys are walking, and if they fall under a certain amount of speed, they get some warnings, and then they buy their ticket. They punch their ticket. And so it's kind of a last one standing kind of ordeal. And I got to say, I loved it. Was not expecting to love it as much as I did. Insane character work, like always with Stephen King. So this is I think we're just starting out hot with an A. I'll rearrange these as we go on, and I'll probably move some things around. But yeah. Next is Carrie by Stephen King. And also, I'm going to do my best to not take forever on each book, because these are all... We got about 30 books, so... All right, Stephen King's Carrie, first book he ever read. I read this... this is like my 25th Stephen King book. I went in with expectations of like, yeah, it's probably pretty good. Obviously, it launched his career, but it's also his first book, so I don't know. And it was amazing. I don't know if I liked it as much as The Long Walk. We're going to put this at the top of B. Really, really good. Really impressive debut. And, yeah. This might bump up to lower A. We'll see. Another Stephen King, so three right off the bat. This is Night Shift. This is a collection of short stories. What is pretty widely considered to be his best collection of short stories. I really liked a lot of them. There are some absolute duds in here for me, but also some like incredible highs. So I don't know if it's my favorite. I've read 3 collections of short stories of his now. Night Shift, Skeleton Crew, and You Like It Darker. And they're kind of all in the same camp. I think I like them all almost equally. But this is right now at the top of be, I think, better than Carrie, not as good as The Long Walk. Yeah. Highlights for me in it were Last Rung on the Ladder. I love when Stephen King writes not horror. It's almost my favorite version of Stephen King, which I didn't know until I started reading it. But man, that short story is incredible. Last Rung on the Ladder. Highly, highly recommend it. All right, next is Immortal Investigation by Michael Cronk. Michael Cronk is a booktuber, so take that take it with a grain of salt. I guess I might have some bias here or not. I don't know Michael. I've just watched some of his YouTube videos, but I did order his Kickstarter of 3 books. This is an urban fantasy series, and unfortunately, it was not for me. I didn't find the humor funny. I didn't find the characters compelling. I just didn't like it. So this is a C for me. And I only read the first of the trilogy. I'm not gonna be continuing though. I think this just made me realize this on top of I already didn't really like Dresden Files. I think it's less of the book and more of like I just don't like urban fantasy very much. But this helped me figure that out. So C for Immortal Investigation. I would say at that point in time when I was reading it, I was very set on not DNFing books. I think realistically I would have DNF'd this book if I was like open to it at the time, but I wanted to power through. But normally I would have DNF'd this. But since I finished it, it's going to go into the C tier. Next is Cold Silver for Souls by Tori Tekken. Copy and paste everything I said about Mortal Investigation with Tori as a booktuber, so there might be some bias there or whatnot. This was, unfortunately, my first DNF ever. So the problem I had with this book is not a problem with the book itself. I don't think. I don't think the writing is bad or anything. It's kind of like a fantasy western. So there was 2 problems I had. One, it's first person present tense, and I've learned that is just not my favorite style of writing. And yeah, I just didn't like that style of writing. And the other problem that I had was more of just like a situational thing. I had just come off of reading Lonesome Dove, followed by Red Country, which are both Western. One of them is a Western fantasy. And those are just 2 like top tier books, which, spoiler alert, you'll probably see on this list. Are they both on this list? Did I forget to put Red Country on here? Oh, no, there it is. So anyway, spoiler. Yeah, both incredible. And then this just, it felt like I was knocking down to an indie read, which isn't bad by any means, but I just didn't find, I gave it 100 pages out of 300 pages. Didn't find myself connecting with the main character at all. The setting was interesting enough, but not enough to keep me hooked. And so I just decided I'm going to put it down and read something I'm more interested in. So that was my very first DNF. Proud of myself for being able to do it. I will be reading more Tori Tekken or trying more Tori Tekken in the future. She has an epic fantasy called Bloodstones, and I want to give that a shot because it's not, from what I understand, not first-person present tense. Because, like I said, I don't think the writing was bad or anything. The style just clashed with my likes a little bit. So, yeah, Cold Silver for Souls. Next is The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janny Wirtz, a current YouTube booktube darling. And I gotta say, one of the best books I've read this year. Her writing is challenging, I would say, but really, really rewarding and transportive. It's rare that I'm reading a fantasy book that I truly feel like I'm like in the living world, and Janny does that. At least in the one book I've read of hers. So, Curse of the Mistwraith right now. It's gonna be top of A. I don't know if it's S just yet. I might bump it to S, but we will see. Next, Revival by Stephen King. I loved this book. I was so surprised at how it was coming of age, but also cosmic horror. And this is one of those books that like I'm constantly still thinking about. I think about the ending of this book often. And for all of those naysayers out there who say that Stephen King can't write an ending. I mean, this ending is incredible. He absolutely sticks to landing, and the rest of the book is phenomenal. It's very character-driven. It's not full of a ton of horror. It's more like a dread, but some really, really beautiful moments in there as well. Really loved the main character and his journey, and so this revival. This is bottom of A. No, I like this more than The Long Walk. This is right there. Let me get a sip of tea, which I got a cool new. See if I can show it. A little Meow Wolf mug. Got to visit Meow Wolf in Dallas. So that was cool. All right. Next is The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. This is the first Discworld book. And I liked it. This is one of those things that there's like 40 Discworld books, and they're all standalone, I think. And if you go online, you say, where should I start Discworld? There's a small portion of people that say you should just read it in publication order, but I think there's a larger majority that say, do not start with The Color of Magic. Don't start there. It's not a good starting spot. But I just couldn't help myself. Like, starting at like a book number 7, even though they're not connected, it just felt wrong. So I was like, let me just do The Color of Magic. And I liked it more than I was expecting to. It did not put me off Discworld at all, but I still think it's just a good book. There were some funny moments. I think Terry Pratchett's humor is good. It works for me. To me, it just felt like it was kind of 4 little novellas than it was like a coherent story. And I didn't really love that. Maybe I would have liked it more going in knowing that, but not knowing that. I kind of was wishing for that or craving that story. So right now, this is top of C for me. All right. Dead House Gates by Steven Erikson, the second book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I actually finished this today. And it could be one of those things that like maybe I need to sit on it more, but I don't think I do, because this might actually be the best book I've ever read. It just might be. I have no real problems with it. I was glued to my seat throughout this entire book, and it's a big book, which I know they get bigger, but I had the broken binding edition, so it was like 950 pages, and it was just one of the best reading experiences I've ever had. Still confusing, I think, in moments, or challenging, rather. A lot of people say that Gardens of the Moon is challenging, but then once you get to Dead House Gates, you're good. I disagree. I think Dead House Gates is equally as challenging. But you have to still read with intent for sure and pay attention. There's a ton of moving parts. It didn't feel like night and day like I was expecting it to. But I do think overall it's a more coherent story with more compelling characters. And man, I can't wait to talk about it. If you've watched our channel before, Ian and I do discussion videos on Malazan. We started with Dead House. He's kind of going back and doing Gardens of the Moon, but we should be doing our 4th and final Dead House Gates discussion for part 4 for the remainder of the book, and then our review shortly. But I cannot wait to talk about it with Ian, because it's so good. So right now, top of S for sure. All right, next is my first reread of the year. I reread The Blade itself. Excuse me. Get that cinnamon spice tea. All right, I reread The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. Why did I reread it? Well, when it was spring, before it got too hot, I was going on walks every day. It was really nice. And I found for myself that audiobooks are not my preferred way of listening or of consuming books. I find my mind wandering. But I've found if it's a reread, I'm really good at paying attention. And I think it's just the way that I read. When I'm reading a fantasy book for the first time, if they mention a place, I immediately stop and go look at the map and ground myself. Or if there's like a list of names, I'll go and check that throughout it. So there's a lot of starting and stopping for me when I read, which I know not everyone does, but that's just how I like to consume it, and it keeps me on track. And you can't do that with an audiobook. So when I'm learning all these names, I'm hearing all these names and places, I have a really hard time focusing. But with a reread, I kind of already know that stuff, so I can picture it. And so, yeah, I wanted to listen to something, but not something new. I really enjoyed The Blade itself, but it was also my first Joe Abercrombie. I've now read 6, so I wanted to start again to see how it held up. Because the first time I read it, I gave it a 4, I believe. No, 4.5, I think. I can't remember. This time I gave it a 4.5. I don't know if it... I think it grew a little bit on me more. I mean, I still loved it the first time, but I get the whole, like, nothing happens. I get why people say that there isn't a plot. I don't know if I completely agree. I think there is a plot. It's just a little more loosey-goosey. But, I mean, the character work it's so good that if you are a character-driven reader and the plot is secondary, then you'll love this book, I think. But the plot is not going to blow you away. It reminds me of, like, it's like opposite of Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson's plots will blow you away, but in my opinion, his characters are pretty lackluster. Where here, Joe's, especially in The Blade itself, the characters are top tier, but the plot might be a little bit lackluster. You're not going to walk away being like, oh, I can't believe this happened and this happened. You're going to walk away being like, that character was amazing. This character was amazing. So that's Joe Abercrombie. And The Blade itself worked great. Stephen Pacey's narration was excellent. So this is, I think this is top of B for me. Still my least favorite Joe Abercrombie book, which may or may not change once I finish The Devils. We'll see. But, yeah, we're just going to have to see. Next is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. So, wow. I read this book because it is Stephen King's supposedly his favorite book. I had never read any historical fiction, but I was interested. Actually, that's not true. I read Speaks the Nightbird. But Western, I guess I should say. And I chose this for the first book for I have a family book club with a few of us, and we all read it together. And this is also one of the best books I've ever read. I think it will stick with me forever. It's incredibly well written. Characters are just next level. You'll hear me talking about that. I will say, actually, I think Deadhouse Gates, they aren't some of the best characters I've ever read. It's just so well crafted as a whole, as a book, that's why it's in that spot. Which I think the characters in Lonesome Dove are much better than Deadhouse Gates. But Deadhouse Gates just was like such an experience that I think I like it better than Lonesome Dove, but not by too much. Lonesome Dove is still one of the best books I've ever read. I see why it won the Pulitzer. I see why it's beloved. I think everybody should read this book. I think anybody could read this book and enjoy it regardless of what you're into. So check it out if you've not. All right. Excuse me. All right, we got 2 more Booktuber books back to back. Mercy, Tears of the Fallen by Chance Dillon. This comes out on July 20th. I was lucky enough to receive an ARC, an advanced reader copy, and read it. Really, really loved it. And now I'm rereading it while Ian is reading it so we can start doing some discussion videos. We had Chance on to the channel for our interview, so, I read this and reviewed it before I knew Chance or really talked to Chance, so I do think this is my unbiased opinion. But, again, take it for what it's worth. So this, I really, really liked this book. It's not a perfect book by any means. It is there are some parts of it that are a little lacking for me. Like some of the character work is not my favorite. Some of it's a little, I don't want to use the word like derivative because I don't necessarily think it is. I think he wears his influences on his sleeve a little bit. And at some moments, maybe it's a little bit too much for my taste. But overall, this is a really complex book. It reminds me of Malazan, where he doesn't hold your hand. He drops you into this world, and you got to just kind of figure it out as you go, but with a nice plot along the way. And I'm currently in my reread for it, and I'm liking it even more. It's one of those that's super rewarding for a reread. Super rewarding for a reread. Whew. But yeah, I really, really liked this. This was a great, super fun read. I think this is right here. Didn't like it quite as much as Revival, I liked it more than The Long Walk. I think after a reread, I could see this being Jumpin' Revival. Yeah, we might do some reorganizing. But yeah, I think right here, it's one of those. It's one of those that like I can't wait to do a discussion video, and it's gonna be like as each book comes out, I'm super stoked to like get more of the world and everything. If you're into really, really vast world building and great world building, and it's pretty grim, it's dark. I don't know if it's grim dark. I don't know if I don't want to use that genre incorrectly, but he says that he's influenced by Elden Ring, and you can definitely see that. It's kind of like an Elden Ring dark world. But you should definitely check it out when it comes out next month. I had a good time with it. So it's going to go right there in A. Next is Discovery by J.A.J. Minton. These are the Mintons over on Talking Story. So this was actually co-written from all three. The husband, the wife, and the son. Or the father, the mother, and the son. They all co-wrote it. And I like this book. I feel so conflicted on this book, actually, because I really liked it so much, but I did have some pretty major problems with the structure. I think it was, I think they took a shot, and some people have clearly really, it's resonated with them really well. I found the book to give me pretty significant whiplash, that it's broken. It almost feels like an anthology. It's that hard of whiplash to where there is an overarching story that connects all of these short stories. But that's what they are. It's like there's a story in the beginning, a part one, and you follow and you learn these characters, and you're getting this thing that's happening. It's awesome. And then you slam on the brakes, and you almost never see that character again. You barely do. They're sprinkled in here and there, but not in a way that like I feel like I continue to know that character. And that didn't really work for me. I almost wish instead of breaking each character into its own part, they were just all interwoven like a classic epic fantasy. But I appreciate them taking the risk like that. It just didn't necessarily work for me as well. But the story and the character work is actually really excellent. And technically, it's really, really well written. But yeah, I did have some problems with this. I think it's going to go right here. Oh, it's so tough. Yeah, it's gonna go right here. All right. Another sip. I'm making decent pace. Goal is to make this 45 minutes or less. So here we go. Speaks the Nightbird by Robert McCammon. This is my first Robert McCammon. I read a little bit of Boy's Life. I had to stop for different reasons, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but I do plan on picking that back up. But this was part of the read-along with Nikhil over on Shelf Esteem. And historical fiction, this was actually my first historical fiction. Excuse me. And it's a freaking chonker. I think it was 2 books originally, but they put it into one, a doorstopper. And takes place after the witch trials in America. And man, I loved this book. This book was so good. Such good character writing. I can't believe Robert McCammon doesn't get more comparisons to Stephen King. It's very similar, and I cannot wait to read the rest of this series. So Speaks of the Nightbird. It's going to go just under Curse of the Mistwraith. I do think... no, actually, we'll talk about it after. Next is The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. Wow. I mean, I'm not super original, but Joe Abercrombie's have all been 5 out of 5s for me, other than The Blade itself, and I don't think The Devils will be either. Actually, I feel confident saying The Devils will not be a 5 out of 5 for me. Not to say I don't like it, but the rest of his other... So let's see. Before They're Hanged, Last Argument of Kings, The Heroes, Best Served Cold, spoiler, and Red Country, spoiler, are 5 out of 5s for me. Just all incredible books. I love his character writing. I love the way he inserts humor. I love the world that he's created. And the way that I like pitch it to my friends who haven't read him is it reminds me of like, it's not a fantasy story that when you close the book, everything is wrapped up with a bow on the end. No, the way that he writes his fantasy, it feels like you've gone into a semester of a history class, and they say we're going to focus on this chunk of history, and that's what you read. So when you're done with the book or you're done with the trilogy, it does feel like the world continues to move on afterwards. Where a lot of fantasy books that I've read, at least, they put that nice little bow, and it's like they all lived happily ever after or whatever, and you don't really think about like, well, what's going to happen next? When I close a Joe Abercrombie book, I think about, oh yeah, there are things that are going to continue happening because that feels real. That's how life works. And I really like that about Joe Abercrombie. I could see why that doesn't work for some people. Some people just think it means it's a bad ending. I don't. I think it feels like they're realistic endings, and I would rather read something that feels realistic than wrapping a bow on it just for the sake of ending it cleanly. Anyways, all that to say, The Heroes, I think it might be my favorite Joe Abercrombie book. So I'm slotting this in right up here for right now. Do I like it more than Lonesome Dove? I might, which is crazy. So The Heroes, the thing that made it so impressive to me is I don't typically like action or battles in my fantasy books because they're almost, I don't know. I don't want to say pointless because I think there is a point to them, right? But a lot of the times it's like our hero, our main protagonist, is going into this huge battle with a bunch of people against the bad guys, usually unnamed people. And then no part of me is ever like, wow, I wonder if they're going to make it or not. Because of course they're going to make it. They're the protagonist. And so it's just them like cutting down a bunch of unnamed people. And I just don't want to read that for 30 pages. I always find my eyes glossing over and I mentally check out. And then I check back in when I'm back to like things that matter. But The Heroes, he proved me wrong because this book is entirely just a 3-day battle. That's it. It's a 600-page book that is just a giant battle. But the character work is so good. What's so genius about this book is that there's like 60 characters in this book. And there's 30, we'll just say 60 named characters. And you learn 30 on each side, which makes it really, really intense when those fights do happen because you know everybody involved. So if there's a 5v5 and you know all 10 characters, you know not everybody's making it out of it alive. So who's going to die? And you have connections and attachments to every character so that these battles felt so tense that I never got glossy-eyed. I was just super in it the whole time. And so I think that was the genius of The Heroes. And he proved me wrong. It's a 3-day battle, 600-page battle, and I loved it. It's so good. So that's The Heroes. This might flip-flop. Oh, no, it's not going to flip-flop. I think that's probably locked in. We'll see, but this is probably locked in. All right, the next book is The Engineer by Will White. It is the second book in the Last Horizon series. This is a fun series. It's kind of like Anime in Space. That's what it reminds an Anime in Space, like a ragtag group on a spaceship that are completing quests, and they each have special abilities. They're different races, and it was fun. I actually really like the villain in this. It's a villain you almost kind of root for a little bit. It reminds me of almost Thanos or Invincible in a way. Excuse me. But yeah, I like this one a lot more than the first book. But still, I don't feel like I have not thought about this book since. It's just one of those, like, if I ever need a palate cleanser, and just power through a book, I would read the next one because I do like the characters. But right now, this is going to be top of C. Yeah, I did like it more than Color of Magic. All right, Red Country. I wonder what this will be. Oh, it's a 5-star book. Who would have thought? So yeah, Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. 5-star book. I read this coming off of Lonesome Dove. I didn't know it was a Western, but it is the fantasy Western. And you can definitely tell Joe Abercrombie was like, I want to make my own Lonesome Dove, or I was inspired by Lonesome Dove for sure. And but I think he definitely had his own spin. He put his own spin on it. It feels like a Joe Abercrombie book. It doesn't feel like it's like Lonesome Dove or anything. But really, really liked it. I know this one's a little bit more divisive, and I could see why because of that Western nature, with all the other 5 before it just feel kind of like a medieval fantasy. This definitely feels like a Western, but man, he nailed it. And again, character work, excellent. We got to see some familiar faces and some changing from like villain to hero, hero to villain, and just such good character work. It's incredible. I do wonder with his standalone books. I know that they are standalones, and technically they could be read standalone. But when I think about like the heroes, I'm like, how could you? I guess you could read it, but there's so many names that if you didn't have connections to them, I wonder how much you would enjoy it comparatively. But anyways, all I'd say, Red Country was excellent. I think this is probably right. Did I like it more than Revival? I don't think I did. Ooh. Yeah, it's going to go right above Mercy for me. Yeah. I think the character work is what puts this ahead of Mercy for me. It's like normal Joe Abercrombie. It's not the most deep and complex plot, but it's still good plot. But the character work is just, it's so good. And, you know, that's the type of reader I am. All right, Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. This is Ian's wife. So, there might be some bias there. Again, I try my best to give honest reviews. I do have a review for this on the channel. I gave this a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a really good debut. It's a novella, a psychic. What am I thinking? A psychic true crime, basically. The main character reminds me a lot of Holly Gibney from Stephen King's work, and I really liked that. I did have some problems with maybe some of the resolution of the character arcs, but all in all, I had a really good time. Not the biggest true crime guy, but I do think this was really well written. I liked Bridget's style a lot, and I'm excited to see her next work. So right now, this is going to go bottom of B. Yeah, bottom of B. Okay, Red Rising. I finally read Red Rising. Bree and I, we did this as part of our breeding, and yeah, we both really liked it. I've heard this is the worst of the Red Rising series, and so if you like this, you'll probably really like the rest. So I was expecting this to be like, and just kind of get through it, but like we both really liked it. It is a little Hunger Gamesy, which is fine. I mean, like, Hunger Games isn't the OG either. Hunger Games just kind of ripped off Battle Royale, and apparently they both ripped off The Long Walk, so hey, there you go. I don't really care if a story is retold, as long as it's done in its own way. And I think Red Rising definitely does it in its own way. It's a lot grittier than Hunger Games, and it sets up for a more expansive world that I'm very interested in, more interested in than I was for Hunger Games. But yeah, we both really liked this. I won't say I loved it, but I liked it, and I liked it right about there. Did I like it more than Carrie? I actually really liked Carrie. I did not like it more than The Blade itself. Yeah, let's put it right here. Let's put it right there. I might also bump this up to here. No. Oh, this is a tough. I'll look at it again before I stop. All right. If It Bleeds by Stephen King. Another Stephen King. This is a collection of 4 novellas. This is hard to rank, and I think that's why Night Shift is hard to rank for me as well, because the highs are really high and the lows were not so much. And that is true of If It Bleeds as well. There's 4 novellas. My favorite was a 5 out of 5. My least favorite was a 3 out of 5. So highs were really high. Lows were meh, but where did I put this? I definitely did not like it as much as Night Shift. I think this would probably be, I think we're going to just throw this in top of C. I think that's fair. If it were just, oh man, actually, I don't know. I really, really love Rat. It's an incredible short story. Life of Chuck is a beautiful novella. And If It Bleeds was actually really good with Holly Gibney. It's just the Mr. Harrigan's Phone I thought was pretty mid. But It's not as good as Carrie. I think we're going to put it here. I think we're going to put it right here. This could bump down to here. It's just not it's not a huge true crime, but I did give it a 4-star. I think just for the sake of closing out my B's, but we'll see. We'll leave it there for now. Excuse me. Woo. Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson, the first Malazan book of the Fallen. I was very nervous to start this book. I held it off for a while because if you've seen online, people are like, do not start this book until you're a fantasy expert kind of thing. And so I was like very still. I guess the hardest book you'll ever read. You're going to be so confused. You're going to have to go to online and look at notes because you're not even going to understand the English language anymore. And I was just like, okay. But I got to say, it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. Is it challenging? Yes. Is it one of the more challenging books I've ever read? Yes. Did I not follow it? No, I followed it just fine. You just got to pay attention. It's not a popcorn read. It's not something you can just like flip through and kind of pay attention to. You do have to pay attention, but if you do pay attention, you'll follow all the story beats fine, I think. I think it's just not as bad as everyone else makes it out to be, but I actually really liked this book. I was expecting, again, kind of like Red Rising. People are like, yeah, it's the first book. It's the worst by far, but like if you like that, you'll like the rest. Well, I really liked it, so I'm stoked. As you see with Dead House, I love Dead House. Gardens is not as good as Dead House, but man, I just constantly found myself going like, oh, that's just so unique. It's so unique. How's no one else ever thought about doing that? So cool, so cool. So a lot of high cool factor and originality. Great character work, just not enough character work. I think that was the real the thing that brought this down. Is I wish I'd spent more time with characters, learning them a little bit more. So right now, again, still loved it. I think this is like bottom of. I didn't like it as much as Red. Did I like it more? No. Yeah, we're going to put it right here. I think I like Mercy Tears of the Fallen a little bit more. That could be because I'm on a reread right now. I could certainly see Gardens going up on a reread. Actually, yeah, I am locking it in. I like Mercy more right now because I'm on my reread. I think if I were to just rank it off of my first read, Gardens, these two would swap. But that's not how it is, so they are swapped like this. All right. The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. Another really kind of polarizing trilogy on BookTube. And this was an interesting book. I really liked it. I ended up really liking it. Kind of fantasy horror. Fantasy horror and fantasy lawyer, which is really interesting. But the writing style wasn't my favorite. That was the biggest weakness of the book. It's like first person past tense, which doesn't really work for me. Sorry, all the sick is getting me. It's the same style as Robin Hobb. I've only read Assassin's Apprentice, but kind of same deal. It's told from a character's. She's like basically reading her diary to us, and I don't love that, but it's fine. I think the characters are pretty good. They could be better, but the story was really, really compelling for me. And there are some moments I remember reading, like being like, "Oh shit!" Like audibly saying like, "Oh shit!" Like, and that doesn't happen too often. So I did really, really enjoy my read of this, and I am excited to read the next one. I think this is gonna go right here. I could switch it with The Long Walk. I think I do switch it with The Long Walk, actually. I think Long Walk's going to go to the top of B. All right. Next is Holly by Stephen King. Bree and I reread all of the Holly Gibney books. So we did the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. We did The Outsider, which you'll see here in a second. We did If It Bleeds. And then we did Holly. I think that's all of them. Yeah. And so then we were current until now. The Never Flinches out. We've not read that yet. But Holly was the first book where Holly was the actual like main character, and it just didn't work as well for me than when she was kind of like a co-star. I think she fills that role of co-star really, really well. But I don't know if I enjoy her enough to carry the whole book. I thought they were really compelling villains in this. It did feel a little bit long-winded. It could have been shortened up. So probably my least favorite Holly Gibney story as of right now. So this is going to go top of C. All right, next. Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. It's Kill Bill. It's fantasy Kill Bill. I love Kill Bill. I like fantasy a lot. So fantasy Kill Bill plus Joe Abercrombie's characterizations and writing, it worked for me on every level. Sorry, guys. What was I going to say? Yes, this was the first real... So we really liked the trilogy. I had to reboot. We really liked the First Law trilogy, but this really kind of showed me that what Joe Abercrombie can really do. I think I like all of these three standalones more than the First Law trilogy, personally. So this was a really, really great book. Do I like it more? I think it's tough. Yeah, I'm going to put it below Curse of the Mistwraith. I think Curse of the Mistwraith is more accomplished and more original and just, yeah, like I said, it transported me to a different world where, like, Best Served Cold wasn't that. It just was a really fun time, and that's fine, too. That can work. All right, 4 more. I'm going to blast through them because I'm starting to die. Murder at Spindle Manor. This was a fun indie read, murder mystery, kind of like Clue, fantasy Clue. Had a really, surprisingly, really good time. Nice twists. I couldn't figure out till it was revealed to me. It felt fair. Had a great time. This is going to go at the top of C above Holly. Yeah. I would read the next one in this series. Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. I struggled with this book. This was the ultimate cool factor book. I've got a review on on the channel if you're interested on deeper thoughts. I would have loved this book if there was any ounce of characterization, but there's just none beyond what Christopher Buehlman tells me that there was. I never saw it. It was not organic at all. It just went from 0 to 100, and he was just like, yeah, this was the characterization. You see? And I was just like, not really, but okay. And then you combine that with it was very episodic in nature. It was just like every chapter, I could have just plucked out a chapter and read it as a short story. And there was no lasting consequence, especially because there was no characterization. But man, it was so cool and original that, like, I love the world building. So I was pretty conflicted on it. But right now, this is going to be... We'll put it at the top of C. It's fine. But this is like one of those books that if you criticize it online, you will get you'll get destroyed. So if you see this, I'm sorry. Don't, actually that's fine. You can shit all over the opinion, but I just thought it was kind of mid. So yeah, that's that. Another booktube darling, Dungeon Crawler Carl. We're kind of ending on some lows here. I think Dungeon Crawler Carl was the epitome of fine. Like, it's fine. I had a good time. I think the humor, it works for me, but it's so full of humor that, just like The Devils, even though a lot of the jokes land, there is inevitably going to be jokes that don't, which is fine. It's a comedy. That's just kind of how it is. The problem I have with Dungeon Crawler Carl is the lit RPG aspects of it, or elements of it, is that it'd be fun, the story is fun, the characters are fun, what's happening is great, and then we got to screech to a halt, so you'd be like, this is the toe ring of being real cool, and you get 0.25 charisma, and that charisma means you level up, and when you level up, your health goes from 71 to 71.007, and with that 0.007, you could take one hit from a goblin, but not just any goblin, a low-level goblin. How low level? A level 2 goblin. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Just tell me he's got a toe ring, and the next time he gets hit by a level 2 goblin, You could say, "Oh, I survived it because of my toe ring," or whatever. I can figure it out. Like, I don't need it to screech to a halt, and it constantly did that, constantly, and it just took me out of it every single time. I play video games. I don't want to read pages of stats and stuff. That's just not to my liking. The actual story was fine, but yeah, just fine. I think I liked Between Two Fires more. No, I think I like Dungeon Crawler Carl more because I think the character work is better. I've heard it gets better and better, but right now it was just a C. I mean, I'm glad I read it. This is actually a reread for me because I listened to it with Bree because Bree wanted to listen to it. So I just listened to it for the second time. And yeah, I felt the same way. I didn't like it any more or any less on a reread. I think it's just fine. I think it's pretty overrated. Maybe not the series because I've not read the rest and I do hear it gets better. But for all the people that love Dungeon Crawler and are DNFing the Devils, I just don't, because the Devils has too many jokes, I don't get it. But that's just me. All right. Lastly, The Outsider. This is a Holly Gibney book. Really liked this book. I see why some people maybe don't because there's something that happens in it that is pretty controversial. I didn't have a problem with it. I kind of went in knowing it's a Stephen King book and knew what to expect. But I could see why the expectations were set for that to not happen based off of things that happened in previous books. So that's all I'll say. But I loved Ralph Anderson, and I loved the relationship between Ralph Anderson and Holly Gibney. Just a true, deep, loving friendship. And it's so good. It's so good. It's one of my favorite relationships in a book, or friendship, I should say. It's platonic, but man, it is truly loving though, and it's super, super well written. I don't like it more than The Blade itself. Yeah, we're gonna land it right there. All right, those are all the books I read. We're at 45 minutes, so let me just make sure I'm happy with everything. So DNF, we're gonna lock that in because it's locked in. I do think Moral Investigations is the worst book I finished. Between Two Fires, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yeah, I'm so conflicted on Discovery. I just don't know if I think it's better than Carrie. And part of me, Carrie is like, I feel like Carrie could even be up here somewhere. Like Carrie it's really, really good. I think I am going to bump Carrie. Did I like it more than The Long Walk though? I don't know. I don't think I did. I'm bumping Carrie up here. I do think Carrie's better than The Outsider. Night Shift is fine down here. It's just hard to rank because of the short stories. In fact, we'll give Discovery the nod to Night Shift. Red Rising, Outsider, Blade itself, Justice of the Kings, Gardens of the Moon, Mercy. Yeah, I'm feeling happy with this. The three up here, I could see Janny and maybe the Heroes flip-flopping at some point. Right now, they're not going to, but maybe on a reread. I do plan on actually going through The Wars of Light and Shadow after we finish all of Malazan. I was trying to do it at the same time, and I just don't feel like that's fair to either of the series. So right now, that's benched for a bit. But yeah, Dead House, Lonesome Dove. I think those are both, even the Heroes. I think these are three of the best books I've ever read. Yeah. Very different books, too, which is kind of fun to see those up there. Read a lot of Stephen King. The worst Stephen King I read was Holly, which doesn't set my expectations super high for Never Flinch. Heard some mixed things. But yeah, these are the books I've read this year and had a great time doing it. And I'll probably do another one of these lists at the end of the year. And maybe I'll save this and I can add the other ones in and then just do a finalized tier list. But yeah, sorry that I'm sound awful and sick. Hopefully it was watchable. If not, then that's okay too. If you did watch, let me know how and why I'm wrong. But you'll never take Dead House Gates away from me. I'm sorry. But yeah, till we see you on the next one. I'm Matt. This is Hobby Vomit, and goodbye.